Java provides a simple way to perform operations on strings. Obviously, strings aren't numbers, so you can't add or subtract them. You can't subtract something from a string. You can't multiply two strings. That's illegal. However, there's the plus operator, which actually concatenates two strings. That means it takes two strings and puts them together. They're appended. So, for example, if I look at this line right here, system.out.println, I'm going to print minutes equal, because that's in quotes, that's one string, and I'll append to it how many minutes there are. So I've maybe done some calculation, 5 hours times 60, I converted 5 hours to minutes. I get my output, minutes equals 300. So I can do more than one, I can put more than one argument in println as long as they're concatenated. The same thing here, I'm taking hello and world, I'm concatenating them, meaning appending them together. My output is hello world. This case is a little weird. I'm, again, mixing numbers and strings, but what it's doing is you would expect the output to be 1, 2, hello. However, order of operations is, like it says here, generally left to right, and the regular what you'd expect for math. So when it does this left to right, it just looks at what you're doing. Oh, these are both numbers, so I'm going to add them. It doesn't think you're doing a string concatenation here. It thinks the plus is an addition, so it adds the 2. Then it sees, oh, I have an integer 3 that I just calculated. I have a plus, but the next one's a string, so it must be a concatenation. So in this case, the output is 3 hello. But this case, okay, I have a string, so that means the next thing must be a concatenation operator. So I add on hello, I add on a 1. Now I already have a string here. My first argument here, or sorry, my first operand here is hello 1, so that's a string. So that means this next one is interpreted as a concatenation also. So my output is hello 1, 2. So we'll experiment with that to see what that's all about. You can do composition of operations. We might have shown a little bit of that previously, but that just means I can put things together. It's just like you'd expect. You can make expressions like you do in math. I can say, I don't have to put this in a separate statement. Minute times 100, I can do that, and then I can divide by 60. We've seen that. You can also put that within a print statement. So I'm putting out a string here. I'm concatenating with hours times 60. Okay, this time it won't concatenate the word hours because that's a variable. So it will do the conversion here because it sees the times. That has nothing to do with concatenation, so it'll do that first. And remember, we're using the order of operations for math, which would mean that the times is done first. Now, the last thing we want to talk about, there's 3 types of errors you can get in a program: compile time, runtime, and logic errors. Compile times, we've seen a lot of those type of errors. That's, for example, when you forget a semicolon, or you have some kind of typo, or maybe you didn't declare a variable. It won't even let you run the program for the most part. Now, a runtime error might be something, for example, when we had the case where we were taking 2 integers and dividing them and expecting to get a fraction or a decimal in our answer, like the case where we were dividing number of hours and we expected to get 1.5 when we did 90 divided by 60, but instead, since we were doing integer division and assigning to an integer, we got an answer of just 1 hour. So that's an example of a runtime error. It will let you do it, but maybe it's not really doing what you expect it to, but it is doing what you told it to do based on the laws of Java. Now, logic error is something that we put into the program by accident. We think we're telling it to do one thing, but it's actually doing another thing. That would be, for example, if I'm converting hours to minutes. Suppose instead of a times, I put a division. Suppose I divided by 60. That's obviously not how you convert hours to minutes, but we put it in our program. That's an example of a logic error. Logic errors can be much more complicated than this, obviously, so it can runtime errors sometimes. But to start out, just so you understand the concept, that's a very simple example. Okay, so this is an example of what we are just talking about. I have hours declared as an integer. I initialized it to 5 right here. I did it all in one statement. I have minutes declared as an integer. I've not initialized it. Now I'm initializing minutes. And again, how you convert hours to minutes, obviously you multiply by 60. So I have the number of minutes in 5 hours. So I'm going to look at how I can print out different things. Again, this is the concatenation operator. I should get hello world. Println should give a new line, and I've added on a new line. So when I get hello world printed out, it should have an extra blank space or blank line between it and the next output. Now remember, this one, instead of the output being 1, 2, hello, it starts off by interpreting this as an arithmetic expression. It looks like you have two integers and you're adding them. So it would just turn this into a 3. Now it sees you have a string, so interprets this plus as a concatenation operator. So your output is 3 hello. This one starts off with a string, so this must be a concatenation operator. It appends the 1, and since I have a string going, it also interprets this as a concatenation operator. So I get hello 1, 2. Now in this case, I get minutes equal. Remember, I just converted minutes into 5 times 60, so I should get 300 minutes. Or I could also do it inline within the println statement. So minutes equal concatenate hours times 60. So I don't even really need this statement if I want, although this makes it more clear, I think, especially when programs get more complicated. Now remember, in this case, it doesn't do the concatenation first. It does order of operations. It interprets this as a multiplication. So let's see what happens. Let's see what the output will be. So we run it, and just what we expect, we get hello world concatenated together. There's no blanks in between because I didn't tell it to give a blank. Now that could be an example of a runtime error, a logic error. I really told it, maybe I meant there to be blanks, but I told it not to put blanks. So that was kind of unexpected, but it did give me this second new line. So println went to the next line. Instead of starting to print the next statement here, I did an extra new line, so the third statement will be here. That's this one, 3 concatenated with hello. This is hello concatenated with 1, 2, and then these really both have the same effect, both of these two. So I get minutes equal 300. An example of a syntax error, let's get rid of this brace. Let's run it. It's telling me there's errors. I know that because I just put one in. In fact, it won't even let me run. And it's complaining about line 17. Well, it hit the end of file or the end of line here. It thinks it knows that this brace goes with this brace, but it doesn't know what brace goes with this brace. So it doesn't know if you mean it to be the end of the file or it's accidentally that, and so it doesn't correct it for you, but it notices it picks it up, and that's what it's talking about. So that's an example of syntax error, and believe me, we'll have plenty of logic errors to look at later.